everything we have to
Beer.
is
Beer.
itself.
Beer. So many choices.
Only no function beer well without.
Woohoo! Beer! Hello and welcome to another episode of Beer Busters. We'll bring you the news and reviews of your favorite brews. I'm Dan Baker, joined by my co-host and brewologist,
Steph Hefner.
and of course the demented and fermented
Wayne Baker.
We have a very exciting episode in front of us for your listening pleasure. As Steph was saying to our guest right before we started recording, the silver lining of needing to do things on Zoom is that we can reach out to breweries and people from breweries who are not in our immediate area, which has always been kind of a physical limitation of really just having day jobs and doing this as a hobby on the side. So Eastern Pennsylvania has had its fair share of appearances on the show, as has Central Pennsylvania, got to New York and Delaware and Jersey.
New Jersey.
And now we can officially say that Michigan is represented, which is very cool because we're on a quest for global domination in the podcast land. So let's add one more state to it. I'm very excited to welcome from Guardian Brewing,
Kim Collins.
Woo!
That's me.
Yes, that is you, Kim. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I'm super happy to be here. Thanks,
Awesome.
everyone.
We're happy to have you.
And we did decide before things got official, we racked our brains for 10 seconds and decided that we don't remember ever having a Michigan brewery on the podcast before. So this is most likely the first, unless we've forgotten
so.
one. But I don't think
so.
we have.
I don't think we have either. So. But it's exciting. You know, rumor has it somebody in our family was a mayor of a town in Michigan. I forget which. Did you not know that?
I did not know
Oh.
Oh, I did know that.
Yeah,
Oh,
I forget
okay.
what town it was. I feel like I should remember this.
I feel like if you would have reminded us before recording, we could have fact checked.
I just remembered now.
Information.
I just remembered now.
that. Well, we have a family connection to some town somewhere in Michigan,
Yeah.
apparently.
Plus, our father is a diehard Detroit Lions and Tigers fan.
Oh, that's
so
true, yes.
There's also that. I really don't understand that. First time the man was ever in Detroit was 2006, and he's born in the 50s.
It's a lifelong Detroit sports. I don't understand sports fandom at all, but I
can give you
especially
that.
don't understand
I can give
that.
you that. I can definitely give you that. Well, sports aside, we're going to have a lot of great things to talk about, beer related, and you know, as has been the trend of the past couple episodes, inclusivity and DEI, which is fantastic. But let's get the housekeeping out of the way. You know what to do to find us on the internet: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Beer Busters, Facebook. We are Beer Busters Podcast. We're also, you can find us at beerbusterspodcast.com. Don't forget to add /shop and get some of that sweet merch. And not only that, like all the designs are originals from Wayne, which is awesome because he's a very talented artist.
Thank you.
And we set up with a site that has really good quality stuff. Like it's cool.
It's pretty decent. Steph actually bought a bunch of our merchandise a while ago, so we
Yeah.
can say we've actually seen it in real life, and it's actually decent quality
Yeah,
stuff.
it definitely is. There's YouTube. We are Beer Busters Podcast on there. There's also patreon.com/beerbusters where you can get access to things like Last Call and the behind-the-scenes feed and, you know, other goodies when the world isn't in its current state. But that is as little as $1 a month over at Patreon.
Check it out.
Check it out.
So I want to mention what I'm drinking because a dear local brewery of ours, Poor Man's, we know that they have on our mission to bring the lager back, which I think it's back. I mean, I'm just going to say, but they now officially have a house lager, and it is a
cool.
Palatamave, which we gush about this style all the time on the show. So I wanted to give Ryan and the crew at Poor Man's a shout out. We are drinking this beer. It is amazing. And I love that more local craft breweries have a house lager on. Stickman has a house lager now too.
Oh,
Which is really, really cool. So it's good to know that there will always be that one tap that
The
will
real
be amazing.
question,
But it is in cans. Poor Man's is canning a lot more now, and the amber Czech style lager called House Lager is amazing. So to our local peeps or people that aren't local, come and get it because it's tasty.
the real question is it better than hams? All Poor
I
Man's
thought you were going to
beers-
ask if it's better than Human Robot's Palatamave.
Well,
yes,
no, it
it's
can't-
better
that's-
than a ham.
It can't be better than
that's
Human
not
Robot.
fair to compare it to Human Robot's Palatamave.
But every beer that comes from Poor Man's now must now be rated against hams.
Yeah, it's the Hamometer.
And I will not choose between this and Human Robot.
Good.
They are both
Good.
divine beers.
Good.
And I am proud and happy to drink them at all times. But
Perfect answer.
on with the show.
On with the show, indeed. So we mentioned at the top of the show, and Steph had mentioned to you, Kim, before we started recording, we've had a sort of theme lately of having people on from breweries that are committed to inclusivity because that is a change that needs to happen, and we want to feature people who are at the forefront of making this change happen. Now, I don't want to steal any thunder or anything. So that being said, where does Guardian stand with this, and what is the history in getting to this point and wanting to lead the charge with it?
They are also very concerned about overuse of electricity. So cheers to Guardian.
That's even better.
It's going to happen every 10 minutes.
That's fine. That's fine.
I can't turn it off.
No, that's
cool. We have
back on permanently.
a built-in timer on the podcast. Every time your screen goes dark, we know that it's been 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Okay, so let me see if I can kind of rephrase the question. So you asked kind of where do we stand as far as,
or I guess what led to that, and where did and what led to you like leading the charge for where you are? Because I know we'll talk about a lot of things that that Guardian is doing, but I guess where did it start, and where did it come to play of having having your brewery so focused around this concept and this idea?
Well, it started when I got into homebrewing, as simple as that, like looking for other women that homebrewed, and then I found some, and that's great. And you kind of start making your little community there. And I started homebrewing in Bloomington, Indiana, so down at IU. And then you start going out to breweries and learning more and looking for folks that are like you there. And like, as an out lesbian, like, where are my people? Like, but also I come over from like the outdoor recreation field. Like, I have my master's degree in outdoor recreation and leadership and motivation. So like, where are my outdoor people? Like, everyone that goes and drinks and goes to places are always looking for people in faces like themselves. And that is the simplest way of saying, where did it all come from? So we're looking for people like ourselves. So as I get into professional brewing out in Colorado, I started getting invites to women-only collaboration beers. And like, those were really not happening a whole lot about 10 years ago. So, I mean, I was blown away the first time that I went to their first collaboration. There were like 10 or 12 women that all work for breweries, all at the same place. Like, you might have one woman in an entire brewery, let alone people that are like you and like the things like you. So it all started there. And I mean, I think it's just for me, it's really simple, because I want to make a place where everyone can see people that look like themselves or like the things that they like within our space. And so the only way to do that is to be very outwardly, loudly opening and welcoming. So there are very many open and welcoming breweries in Michigan, but we are the only 100% LGBTQ owned brewery in the state. And that blows my mind. Like, I know lots of other people that work for breweries and brewers who are kind of in that category, but if they don't see people who are owners or brewers or operators or accountants or whatever that are like them in other breweries, then maybe they're not going to reach higher. Maybe they're going to get burned out. Maybe they don't have people looking out for them. So really, it's just from the beginning, we're looking for people like ourselves so that we fit into our own community. And then we're just looking to build a beer community that everyone feels welcome, because it feels so good when you're in a room of folks that you look like and you share likes with, and it's just, everything is so easy then. And so if you just kind of be really, I don't know, for us, it's just being open and welcoming to everyone, at literally everyone. Like, we have a lot of different folks that live in Michigan, and in some places are very diverse and some places are very not. But that doesn't mean that you're not welcome. Like, everyone's welcome.
So what made you choose this part of Michigan to open your brewery?
Well, I wish that folks would have used a more specific language when they were trying to kind of lead us into choosing a place. So we looked at 100 properties in Michigan. Wow. From Muskegon to New Buffalo. And they said, you should probably be in Saugatuck and Douglas. So they're like sister towns right across the river from each other. You should probably be there. There are people like you there. I'm like, I'm not sure Wait, I think I know what you mean. You drive down our main street and it's just rainbow flags are flying. Everybody's welcome. Everybody can be out and proud with their families. It's safe. Is it perfect? No, no place is perfect, but it's safe. And so it is the P-town of Michigan. P-town meaning Provincetown. It is. It's what I've heard. It's just like Provincetown, Massachusetts, but it's in Michigan. So we're a little seaside community, but on Lake Michigan. So had folks been more comfortable using those terms, they would have said, because it's really gay, you should go there. Like,
Yeah.
like very outwardly, like, go there. Like, you're welcome there. Like, you'll feel good there. Instead, they're like, we want you in our town. And I'm like, awesome. However, there's no properties available. So we just kind of stuck it out and it worked out.
Yeah, you're in the Red Barn, which was previously the Red Barn Theater. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it's brown now. First thing we did was paint it. It needed its new chapter, and the new chapter was a huge coat of paint.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the building, and you also are on a pretty impressive piece of land as well.
We are, but as COVID goes, well, we'll get there. So so our barn used to be white, and it is across the street from a mansion, which is now called the Belvedere Inn. So our white barn was the horse barn for the mansion across the street, and kind of catty corner down the way is the water tower. So you can see where this used to be all one big farm, and they built a road through it at some point in time. So our barn is from 1912. So it's from 1912. They built the top part of it into a theater in 1948. They put 200 seats on it in 1956. So like a second side to the building. Then they kind of built underneath it for storage. And then eventually they put like the concrete blocked it in and made it into like a practice theater. So they could practice one play while putting on a play. And that kept them going 6 months a year or so at least. It was a big deal to act in this theater. So I like to say that the history of the theater was like a roller coaster. Like some years they had lots of money, great directors, actors and actresses from like both coasts, and then it would run out. And then somebody would reinvigorate it with new folks and new money, and on it went until it finally sold to a guy named Ralph Baker. And he and his family bought it so he could give his wife and his daughter a place for an antique mall. And instead of putting the antique mall in the theater, he built a 6,000 square foot, like freestanding, no poles in the middle barn. And it turned into an antique mall. And then it kind of went flea market. And then it was like part of it was rented out to other groups, and they did weddings and pretty much anything, right? So once his wife died, at Betty, maybe 5 years ago, I think it was now, maybe 6, he was ready to let it go. And so we got to meet him, Ralph, who is no longer with us either, but Ruth, his daughter, is still in town. So I met Ralph and Ruth and tried not to tell them right away that I was turning it into a brewery because I didn't want them to get worried. Our township, I think right now I'm the only liquor license holder.
Wow.
Oh.
And it was a dry township until 2008.
Wow.
So we had a lot of, I'd say, stigma or assumptions to fight just because people were worried that a brewery was going to be like a drunken bar. And so anyone that knows has been to a brewery, they're more like, some of them, are super family friendly. That's kind of how we roll. I'm like, it's more like a really good family restaurant that serves like local food and great craft beer and just kind of want you to come in and hang out. So we don't even stay open that late. So we're in a super rural community right on the outside of, our little beach community. And so we do have currently 23 acres across the street. Our brewery sits on a 3-acre parcel, but we're actually going to be putting up 22 of the 23 acres this next year, just so that we can get into distribution in a major way.
Oh,
Well,
cool.
major for us is anything, because right now we don't have a license to distribute. So we're going to be making a lot of moves, building a new kitchen this next year. Just like anywhere, it is tough to get folks to work, But for here, it's tough to get folks to work because it's too expensive to live here.
Okay.
So like, I don't even live in Saugatuck. We live in Holland. So that's kind of the biggest hurdle in our area, which is similar to folks everywhere. So it's not even a COVID thing. It was like a, whoa, we didn't know that, just moving here thing. So to be able to operate more buildings and stuff on a 23-acre parcel across the street when we're struggling to hire enough folks just to operate it for the 3 acres that we have, I don't think it's a good use of space and time. So we got some plans. So we're going to be building out this next year, and a beautiful, pretty rare chunk of land's going to come up for sale that, doesn't come up very often here. We've had it for 4 years now. Yeah, I don't know. It's changed a lot of things, but it's exciting.
Exciting and equally scary, I suppose.
Yeah, I would imagine.
I'm the only brewer, so I'm going to have to get some.
Yeah, and so on in that vein, if you're the only brewer, you have what, 22 taps? I think I saw.
Yeah.
How do you manage to do that if you do it all alone?
Well, you don't brew it all at once.
Well, yeah, of course. But I would imagine you're probably constantly brewing. Like in my mind, it seems like it's an around the clock thing. Like one thing's done and just like you're just ready to go, and you have to use the space. You have to use all the tanks, everything like right away after you're done with one.
We own 5 tanks, so that's a big, luckily I have had great teachers who taught me, this is how many kegs you need to buy, and this is how many tanks you need. This is how often you can turn them over. So we will sometimes have 5 beers in tanks. We have 3 beers in tanks right now. But once they're in the tanks, those tanks are full for at least 2 weeks. So it's more like, hurry up, get a bunch of stuff done, wait, do it again, wait.
True.
So in summer, it feels like the tanks are always turning over, but wintertime, I feel like I'm constantly pulling on the brakes because I want to make sure our beer is fresh so that everything that's going out tastes really great and it's going out fresh. So if you're going to the store shelves and you're buying things that are not high alcohol or barrel aged and they're over 6 months, don't buy it. So we're constantly playing that game. 22 taps is a lot, but yeah. I'm crazy. I don't know.
So
I
guess this time of year, do things slow down a little bit since you're more of like a beach town, sort of a destination? I imagine that there's more people visiting in the summertime.
Yeah, exponential slowdown in the winter. Yeah. So right now I have, I think 5 different kinds of barrels going. I got a lager going, stuff that takes a while. So in my tanks right now, got a lager, got Doppelbock, got a barley wine, and I have an imperial stout that will get coffee and chocolate.
Oh,
it's like my ode to the Epic's Big Bad Baptist.
Oh, nice.
I used to brew for them, so I'm like, great beer. So yeah, it's a lot of high alcohol stuff and stuff that takes a long time.
So I guess and this is what happens on our show. We're very conversational. So one topic leads to another, but let's rewind a little bit. And I know that you mentioned that you have the degrees in outdoor recreation, which I think is totally awesome, but sort of rewind and maybe talk about your history and maybe your beer resume and how you got to the point where you wanted to open your own brewery.
Okay. So like I said, I was a home brewer for a number of years and I was okay as a home brewer, but I love the beer culture and the beer community. The people in beer are having so much fun, and it's not just the alcohol. We're having so much fun, sober, nerding out over beer. Why wouldn't you want to surround yourself with people like that as much as you can? So I was the assistant director for IU Outdoor Adventures. So that's we train outdoor leaders and we train skills to students at Indiana University. And I did it for 7 years and I was starting to feel a little burned out. And really my only choices were leave the industry, which I did for beer, get a PhD and teach full time, or become a director of an outdoor center somewhere. So it's sit behind a desk, teach all the time. I love teaching, or just try something new and kind of recapture the outdoors for me, for my time. And so I think that was my first inkling. I'm I'd like to do something in beer. So let's try beer. So my partner, Kate, was like, okay, so here's the deal. She's like, you got 5 years to figure out if you can make this and you can like open your brewery. And like, I think that I can support us for 5 years. And so God love her, she did. And we opened in 6. I'm like, so I've worked for 5 different breweries, not because I'm a job jumper, but because I needed very specific skills, I thought, and education and mentors in order to, here we go.
10 minutes.
Perfect. In order to be able to open Guardian. So I've worked for Tommy Knocker Brewing, and their story is so sweet. Like, I love that crew. So they are in Idaho Springs, and I was living in Golden, Colorado. So just over a very small hill that would often close in the winter due to snow. I said to now a friend of mine, like, well, I know I don't have very much experience, but you should totally hire me. And he's like, I can't hire you. You don't have any experience. I'm like, well, true. And he's like, okay, so come in and just come talk to me. And so I was like, oh yeah, I'm totally going to talk to this guy. Like, I'm in, I'm getting in. And he's just like, yeah, I can't hire you, but like, here's the places that you should go check out. And I was like, no, like, how about I'm your intern? And he goes, we don't take interns. I'm like, apprenticeship. And he goes, yeah, okay. Show up at 5 a.m. tomorrow. Apprentice, just a fancy word for free labor.
Basically.
Like, like there was no like formality to it. And I definitely didn't get paid for a while. So I started showing up at 5 a.m. and I did the work and I didn't complain. And I guess I was a good enough companion on brew days that they let me stay. And once I started driving the forklift, they were like, oh no, like put her on payroll. And I was like, yeah, put me on payroll. That's what I want to hear.
Heavy machinery. She should be official. Yeah.
Yes. So I got paid $9 an hour. Hey, we pay some of our cooks 16 now. I'm like, okay, $9 an hour. Sounds great. So got paid $9 an hour, got passed up for a full-time job because of that hill between our 2 towns. They're like, if you move to Idaho Springs, we will absolutely hire you on full-time. And I was like, I just moved to Golden. No, like, I can't do it. I'm like, it's not just me. Like, that would be me asking Kate to, go drive to Denver every day and let me make your commute 45 minutes longer, because the snow or the mountain pass gets whatever, there's an avalanche. I'm like, all sorts of crazy stuff happens up that I-70 corridor. So the short of it is I stayed with them until I found a full-time position open at Boulder Beer in Boulder, RIP Boulder Beer. I'm like, people are still making the brand, but the brewery has closed. Super haunted. That's probably why. So I was a full-time brewer with them for about 5 months. And you know how sometimes you just need to leave places because your team is not a good team? Like, it's just not a healthy, good place for you to be. So I somehow stuck it out 5 months and still friends with a couple of the guys. And it's been fun to see them open their own places and kind of move around to different breweries in Denver. But I had to go. So I went to Epic. They had just moved from Salt Lake to Denver. So I was the first brewer that they hired when they got there. And I was like, can we just please just brew beer? Like, no drama, no. Like, I was old compared to those other brewers, and I was in like my early 30s. That's the best part. So all the other guys were like in their 20s, and they're just like, yeah, like, we definitely need someone older in the brew house. I'm like, great. So now I'm the old lady that they hired at Epic. And like, everything that they taught me was amazing, and I still use it today. Like, I'd still probably be there if I didn't have that dream to open my own place. Like, they're phenomenal, and what they're doing is delicious, and they've taught me everything I know about barrel aging. Like, I have a lot of love for them and a lot of gratitude. So the only way to get me away from that position was for a small brewery in Golden to say, well, hey, why don't you become our head brewer? Because then you're doing the scheduling, the ordering, all the recipe managing, like all the heady upper stuff, that next level of experience that I didn't have. So I went in and worked with them for about a year and a half. And we too did not make a good team.
Oh, no.
And so my family was like, okay, seriously, like it's been long enough now. Are you ready to open Guardian? Like, please, we're all just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And I was like, okay. And then from there, it was a matter of finding properties and partners and all of this and 1 billion lawyers. And yeah, here we are. We're turning 3 tomorrow.
Oh, happy anniversary.
awesome.
I didn't even
tomorrow.
realize.
Oh, wow.
That's amazing.
It's crazy. It's
Well,
crazy.
first of all, I have to tell you, I have a whole lot of respect for your journey and the fact that you bounced around, but in a meaningful way and truly got the experience that you needed in order to start this like that. I have a lot of respect for that. And a lot of people early on in my beer journey always said, if you're going to brew somewhere or you're going to brew with someone, make sure you like their beer. And I'm like, it sounds so simple and so obvious, but yeah, you don't want to learn from people if you don't even like the beer that they're making. So that's really awesome that you got to spend that time at Epic. And I love how it's continuing to influence the beers that you're brewing today. Now, you mentioned the family kept saying about Guardian. So is this a name that you've sort of had for a long time that you knew when I open my brewery, this is what it's going to be called?
Yeah, we actually trademarked it in 2012. So
wow.
What the listeners can't see is I'm pointing at a Pegasus with a horn.
I love the logo, by the way. I love it.
Pegacorn, because
Pegacorn.
Unipeg sounds weird.
Yeah, Unipeg doesn't sound good.
Mhm. It sounds kind of inappropriate. So anyway, Pegacorn, because, family friendly. What do you call that thing? Like wings big enough to pick it up. It's badass. It comes in black and white, which is kind of cool. The story that it's funny how my partner Kate and I tell it very differently. Anyway, what I do know, my story is we went for a walk from our apartment down the hill to downtown Golden and back. And while we were downtown and, on the way there and back, we were going to go get a library card. I remember she goes, but we went to a bar. I'm like, so, okay, we did a lot of things. But during that time, those many hours of walking around doing God knows what, because neither of us can remember exactly, we made a list of all the things that thing could be named. Like, what do you name this creature? Like, Guardian was the only one that wasn't trademarked.
Huh.
And so in 2012, got the trademark at legalzoom.com. I don't think that's a good idea at all. Get yourself a lawyer, do it right. Don't fill out your own paperwork. It's an awful idea. You have so much crud to fix after that. Oh, man.
We have an LLC for our podcast, and it was done through LegalZoom.
All right. Well, good luck with the follow-up paperwork.
It's been years we've been fine so far.
It's so bad. When it comes to beer, it's so bad.
I'm sure.
It's so hard. So anyway, yeah. So there's a lot of proof of that you're using it and all that stuff. So whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so we've had the name for a really long time, and I never hid it from employers. I'm like, I'm going to open my own brewery someday.
Mm-hmm.
And any one that employs a brewer should know that you are renting that brewer. And I don't mean that in kind of squashing down the importance of the work that they do, but you're just renting that brewer. You're leasing that brewer. You're borrowing their time and paying them well, hopefully, for something great, but it's not permanent. Not unless they're a partner in your business will you get to keep your brewer forever. Something big has to happen. Brewers always move on. So there was never that hiding. I'm like, I want to open my own brewery. Like, what do I need to know? And they're like, everything. I'm like, okay.
Well, that's one of the great things about the beer industry is there's a lot of pride in brewers saying, yeah, I trained this person, and this person, or they used to work for my brewery and now these are all the places they've all opened. There's a lot of pride in that. And you're essentially training perhaps your competition. But I feel like most brewers and brewery owners don't look at those people as competition because in a lot of communities, at least here in our area, it's almost like the more the merrier. Because the more breweries there are in a centralized area, especially good breweries, people are going to travel to those areas and they want to hit all of the breweries. So I think it's looked upon more as building the community of craft beer and not so much as you're eventually going to be my competition, which I think is something really unique and one part of the beer industry that continues to be a positive part of the beer industry. We have Iron Hill Brewing here in which started in Delaware, I guess, as it were, Wilmington, Delaware, so, Eastern Pennsylvania, they've kind of grown beyond. And there are so many other breweries that have opened by former head brewers of different Iron Hill locations. And I did my internship at one of the Iron Hill locations, and there is a sense of pride there from the owners and the higher up brewers of just, everything that has been created around them that all started at Iron Hill. So that's really cool. It's neat. It's like, I want to do this one day. Teach me what you know. And they're like, okay, here's what I know.
It's interesting too to think that, like, I'm just thinking about it as you're talking about it here in Pennsylvania. There's, a handful of like really big, well-known craft breweries like Trogs, Victory, Yards, all of those. And so many brewers have gone through those breweries and opened up other breweries. And so it's almost like the entire landscape of craft beer in our home state is sort of like been sort of like grandfathered, as it were, or like, sort of created by these breweries that came first, and then they trained brewers who then opened another generation of breweries, and then so it sort of pays forward too. It kind of it improves the overall scene because you have all these breweries, these brewers going through really amazing breweries, learning the ropes, and then opening breweries in the same area. So now there's another really great brewery, and then they teach the next great brewer who opens the next great brewery, and it's really cool how it kind of just sort of domino effects like that.
I feel like it's also a return on an investment then too for the breweries that may have started that trend, because you may build up the community and you have all these brewers that are opening great breweries back there, but then the word gets out that we started off at Trogs, Victory, wherever, and people will flock back to there to see like where they got their influences from. So it's a cycle that just keeps perpetuating itself in the best possible way.
And like a family tree. Like, I'm a really visual person. I want somebody to kind of like map that tree out.
I like
because like in Michigan, the big tree that I have noticed here, not just Bells and Founders, but New Holland to Brewery Vivant. Like that's, I think, the closest connection here. So I'm like, just really cool that like the folks that own Brewery Vivant, Jason, came from New Holland.
Mm-hmm.
Other people too. I just think it's really cool. So like, as I'm getting to know people, I'm starting to kind of build all the little branches on the tree in my head.
Mm-hmm.
It's neat. I knew it in Colorado, but that was 5 years ago. I got a different state, different folks. So
yeah, but the interconnectedness is just every like craft beer scene that you come across. Like there, I'm sure there's connectedness, nationally too. I mean, we're talking to you and we're in Philly, but that every like little local craft beer scene, like everybody knows each other, everybody's worked with each other, everybody's collaborated with each other.
But it's also so cool to see that happens in the different beer communities,
in
different areas. Yeah,
and it's cool because when we talk to people who are further away, we hear the same kind of stories, which is really encouraging. Very cool.
Yeah, I got to give it to Michigan for being so welcoming to me, who was not a part of that at all. You know what I mean? Like we just kind of came into Michigan and we're like, hey. And they're
that is
like,
true.
Yeah, they've been awesome.
Very cool. Very cool.
So every article that I was looking at that was written about Guardian Brewing mentioned, or many of them mentioned, that you are a destination brewery, I guess is the name a lot of them gave you, I guess, because of being so close to the beach town. But there's also a lot of amazing trails, and you're not far from Lake Michigan, correct?
No, I know my 2 miles away. Yeah.
That's amazing. So I'm sure that was another draw for you with your connection to the outdoors. So besides drinking beer, what are other things that people can do when they come and visit your brewery?
Well, if you got a dog, bring it. Like super friendly dog brewery, but dog town. So like you can have dogs on patios. So like we bring out water bowls, and most people have like, I don't know, little dog treats or whatever. And there's like great shops in town for dogs. People love dogs here. It's great. So I don't even have to have a dog because I have like 72 on the patio in the summer. So bring your dog because they're welcome. But people love to hike, mountain bike, road cycling. Frisbee golf is really big here. So disc golf. Anything that has to do with water or water sports, whether it's like paddleboarding or sailing, or you don't even have to know how to sail. Literally, there's like really nice historical schooners that you can like pay to get a seat on, and they'll take you sailing and like teach you things when you go out. You can go to a place called Retro Boats and rent a donut boat that like mostly goes forward, but also goes around in a circle. They also rent boats that look like old cars. So it's either like by land or by water. There's so much to do, and there's so many beaches around here to check out. And like some are up these like ridiculously tall sets of stairs because you have to get all the way over the dune to get all the way over the backside. And then some are beautiful. They're kind of park and go out right in. You don't need to do the stairs. I'm like, but there are some hikes here that are pretty famous for their stairs. I'm like, there's wineries if you get tired of beer, like so many wineries, so many like creameries, and it's all about makers out here. I think how I'd put it. And another thing that I love so much about our town is that besides right off the exit, we have a Dollar General, a Subway, and a Burger King. That aside, every single other business in our town is locally owned.
Very cool.
Every one of them. So every one of them has like a family and a stake in the wellness of our town. I love it. It's so cool. Yeah. So lots of different kinds of food, shocking for the area. There's a lot of Dutch folks here. So I would say we have the most eclectic food of the towns in the area, except for like Grand Rapids would be after us.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like how you mentioned the local food. And I know on the website it mentioned too that you believe that food should be like made with local ingredients, which is amazing. So I know you said you're going to open up the kitchen next year, add on to the kitchen. I guess you're gonna keep doing the local part, right? Like what are some of the best local items that you have there that you want to get for your kitchen then?
Well, so it depends. Again, the last couple of years have changed a lot of things. Of course, we last year, so 2020 February, before the apocalypse happened, we were able to host our first swanky, like fancy beer dinner. So we did it. It was called Love is Love. And we served local lamb from, 30 minutes away.
Wow.
And so it was great. So we got to like trade lamb for a check, like in a parking lot, but he was only 30 minutes away. And it was just really like from that to like the greens that we get to a lot of our sausages and stuff come from Detroit. So local to us is definitely Michigan, but also we have Northern Ohio, Northern Indiana, and like the Chicago area, even Milwaukee is still it's still really local to us because we're right on the lake. So if you were to like draw a circle around Saugatuck, it being in the middle, go over to Detroit and around, Milwaukee's totally in that too. So it just depends who's selling what and who walks through the door and what our chef is into at the time. But I mean, definitely meat and produce is what we try to do as local as possible. Baked goods, like breads and things like that too. So with the new kitchen, we'll just be able to do more dinner entrees, which is wonderful. And not only is like regional and local food important to us, but we think it should be reasonable in price.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I appreciate that.
More people want to eat this way, but dang, it gets really expensive sometimes.
Yeah.
So I think that part of being welcoming to others is also making sure that you aren't pricing out your guests, because you can go get really nice dinners other places in town. You can get a great dinner with us. You can feel good about where the food comes from, but it's not going to be, $50 a plate, $100 a person, that sort of thing. By all means, if you want to buy that, that's fine too, but you don't have to. You can bring your family, or you can come in for some snacks, or we try to run the gamut of prices. But I mean, it could be local chicken for us. It really is it's very seasonal and very farm dependent lately. Who's got it? Where is it coming from? Can we even get it anymore? Has been super interesting.
Yeah. I think that's a clear indication of a restaurant that actually serves local food is that they run out of stuff, and stuff is only available certain times of the year, because that's how it actually works when you produce your food locally.
What are you talking about? Yeah.
What do you mean you don't have strawberries in the middle of January?
You know what I like about it though too? It not only does it help the local community, but it tastes better usually too. We recorded at a hop farm years ago, and they were it was run out of the couple's
dinner.
house. Yeah, they were kind enough to feed us and like homemade chili and like cornbread and cookies at the end. But the chili had beef in it that was their cow. Was it their cow?
It was the farm
Down the
right
street,
down the street.
down the street.
It was butchered like half a mile down the road.
Yeah, and like very recently, like 2 or 3 days before we got there, and it was some of the best chili I've ever had. So like it's just an added benefit on top of all that. Plus, if you're making it at an affordable and approachable price point, that's just even better because you can get that flavor, that level, and support the local community without breaking the bank. That's huge.
I also wanted to talk about the beer school that you teach. You do that monthly, correct?
We do, yeah.
And you are Cicerone certified,
I am.
correct?
Yep.
So does that certification
Level 2.
level 2? I wonder, there was master is the highest level, right?
Yes.
Last
That's
time
level
we
4.
had, there was one female that had reached that level. I wonder if that's changed now. It's been a number of years since we've like talked Cicerone stuff on the show. I want to research that and find out.
There are a few more women that have passed the advanced, but I don't know if there's more than one in the master. I mean, my goodness.
Yeah.
I have aspirations, but I also know that I have the rest of my life. I'm going to take my time.
Yeah,
like passing that second level was hard enough.
I remember having this conversation. Isn't there only something like a dozen
it was a
master level
handful.
Cicerones like in the world? It's some like really low number of people who have
it's
made
only
it.
a little bit over a dozen now, but yeah, the number's still super low.
Yeah.
Like I think my friend Dev was like in the top 5 women that ever passed. And my friend Annette is one too. I'm like really impressed. Really, really impressed.
According to Google, it says there's 18 master Cicerones.
Okay.
I don't know if I can find a list of those 18 people. I don't know, but anyway, I brought it up. I'm really curious about these monthly beer schools that you're doing. Can you tell us a little bit about what those are like?
Yeah. So Cicerone program focuses a lot on tasting, beer styles, a little bit of history, and then pairings. So kind of all the things that I love. So instead of not using my teaching background ever again, which just sounds so sad because I love teaching, we thought, wouldn't it be fun if we trained great drinkers? Like make it really approachable. You don't need to know anything about the style. Like I have folks show up to stout class that quote hate stouts and then leave going, I like 3 more stouts. I'm like, hey, well, it just, sometimes it's all about how people are introduced to things. So I have folks in here in beer school that brew professionally. I have folks that brew at home. I have folks that are just getting into drinking beer, really the whole gamut. So we're doing different classes every month. We've done this will be our 4th year. Yeah.
Wow.
So 4th year. So we got 14 classes planned for this year. Lots of different topics. We have a license right now that allows us to serve other people's beer. So we've been featuring our beer plus 5 others every month. When our license switches over, I'll be featuring 6 beers every month, which will be really interesting because they're broken by theme. So expect a lot of small batches to come out of our brewery. So it'll be fun. So we talk about the style, the history, the significance, and then we taste it together. And I teach people how to properly taste beer. And so we talk about whether we like it, but we also talk about what it should be like so that in your head you can break those two things apart. Because I'm sure we've all gone to a bar, taken a sip and been like, I don't like that. But the next question I want everybody to think about is, but is it made well?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's okay if you don't like it, but is it made well? Well, then you can't really fault it. If it's made well, you just don't like it. But if it's not made well, then I started digging into like off flavor training and things like that in beer school. Like, why is it not made well? Like, what are we tasting? So yeah, it gets pretty nerdy, but it's only an hour class, so it's not that painful. I'm like, everybody loves it. Because of the social distancing that needed to happen this past year, we moved out of our classroom and into the whole entire brewery, like where we would do like packaging and things in the future. So we've had 30 seats filled for the past 4 months of beer school. Like
Oh,
folks
wow.
coming in and we're doing it, like PowerPoints and 6 samples, and we're having a blast. I'm like, it's so much fun, and it's created such a great little nano community, I would say. Like, they're all our neighbors anyway. They're already our community, but we've brought them all together through their love for beer and just wanting to know more. And because I have so many people that come to like every beer school or the same beer school every single year, we have never repeated a beer.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's impressive.
So is this,
Yeah.
is this, you said 14 for the year. If you sign up, do you attend all 14 sessions? Or is
No,
it something where, like, if I would be in town and I'd be like, oh, Kim's doing a beer class, well, I'm going to be in town, I can just come sign up for one of them?
Yeah, so we have a few customers that'll sign up for the whole year, or roughly the whole year. But yeah, most people sign up class to class. So it's great. It's a lot of diversity in people and topics, and
That sounds really cool. It's almost like an introduction to like beer judging training, but like not quite as intense, so it's a little more approachable. So it's not like super high, like intimidating on a technical level for people who are maybe a little less experienced, but you still get some of that. Like when you move into the
Very
all
excited
flavor
about this.
training, you really get to sort. I've never actually done an all flavor training. It's always something I've wanted to
I've
experience.
taught
awesome.
off flavor
I know you
training.
have. I know.
I've
We've
taught
talked about it
many
years
of
ago.
them. You could have come to one for free.
I know, but
would've
I've never
not
sat
charged
down
you.
and done one. But I love that sort of thing where you're like learning about what you're experiencing while you're experiencing it. It's really cool.
Well, and it's something you need to do regularly, because I honestly haven't taught a class in many years. So I feel like I should attend one, because I'm sure that my palate is a
a
little
little rusty.
off. I mean, there's some that you'll always like, I know exactly what that is, but I found a list, by the way. There's 20. There's 20 masters. I don't know why I'm like nerding out about
really,
this.
really.
It's just really
impressive.
cool that
That's why
people-
I'm like, it's really, really impressive.
There is, well, and it doesn't, I mean, it's hard to tell. There's a Morella. I assume that might be, there's a Nicole. I assume that's a female. And there's an Avery, but I mean, that could be,
I think she might have been one of the first, or somebody else with an A name.
yeah. So there's 20 now, and it appears as though there's a few females
cool.
on the list. But I mean, kudos to anyone that like is so
Yeah.
dedicated, and I mean, Kim, for you to be at level 2 and have aspirations to go further, and then to teach these classes to just educate your community. It's so cool.
We have a lot of fun. As nerdy as it
Yeah.
is, like, they're just fun. It's an excuse for me to tell goofy stories about history that somebody decided was history, and we talk about the missing history and things like that too.
That's cool. I was looking at the list of the classes you had before we started recording, and I really like some of them. I mean, so you're doing 2 in January, 2 in February, and every other month looks like it's just 1 a month, which I mean is still a lot to offer. And it runs the gamut of styles. Like you have the strong ales, you have the Trappist ales. The one that got me is in May. You have one for Mexican lagers and Star Wars beer, and I have to ask, where does the Star Wars part play in? Except that it's May the
I was gonna
4th.
say it's on May 4th.
It's May the 4th.
Okay, all right. But like,
Star Wars beer.
so what? I mean, like, what Star Wars? Do you make a Star Wars beer for it, or like, how does that work? I'm so intrigued. I love Star Wars.
We should probably talk like a week before class.
Okay.
I'm hoping, I know for sure I will have a Schwartz beer, whether it's mine or somebody else's.
Okay.
Schwartz
because
I mean,
with
you have to.
Spaceball- Because of Spaceballs, you have to serve
It's
a
one of my
Schwartz
favorite
beer.
movies. I think we named an episode that May the Schwartz beer with you.
We
I
did a
think I
long
think I
time
named
ago.
that an episode.
There is an
Yeah,
episode.
so
with
past
title.
that, I have no idea what Star Wars themed beer is, but I'm gonna figure it out. I got plenty of time.
That's awesome. That's great.
We got plenty of stuff.
And it could just be names, or it could be, and then the rest of it will be Mexican lagers, which we did last year for the first time. And wow, they are really different, and what a cool history. And like,
Yeah.
it was a neat class.
I like that you also have one in June for how to pair beer with food, because that's a thing that I don't feel like enough people understand the importance of.
That one always sells out.
Oh, I
Like people
bet.
are like, "Oh, I was gonna wait to get my tickets." I'm like, "But it's
Don't
sold
wait.
out 3 years in a row.
Yeah,
Don't wait."
Don't wait.
And if you're buying tickets ahead, I would recommend to anyone listening to look at October.
Yeah. I
The
pointed
class
this one
is
out
simply
to a
titled Weird,
Weird
Beer.
We used to call it exploratory beer. People were like, "What?" And I'm like, "It's just weird beer." So this past year, I always try to get something that's like extra weird. So this last year we did Martin House pickle beer from Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I
We
ended
just
up being
talked
in
about
Texas,
that last episode.
and I got spicy and I got regular, and I actually threw them in my suitcase and brought them home, and we had them. And then I made a pickle beer called Tigress this past year, and it was very different from that, but it was great. So we had 3 different pickle beers to kind of end class on, among many other weird beers that people make. The year before that, it was an asparagus Helles,
Oh,
which tasted like peanut butter Helles.
What?
So
Weird.
a friend of mine made it home brewing. He's a very talented home brewer, but he and I nerd out on Upton. There we
There's
go.
lights.
The chemical connections that are present in food and beer, like different beer styles. So like Helles is connected to the chemical connections in asparagus, like the sulfur in the lager yeast,
oh,
Okay.
kind of nerdery abound. Yeah, it gets kind of crazy. So he's just like, well, I made this beer to see if I could make it. And I'm like, can I just like buy that keg off of you? And he's like, no, you can have it, because I was just going to dump it. And I'm like, perfect.
Wow.
So
Wow.
every year we do something extra weird, but then I'll do 5 other things that I think are weird. Beer is getting harder and harder to find because everybody's making more and more unique, odd combinations of things.
But I think the weird beers are getting less weird is the problem,
That's
because
exactly right.
everybody's making them, like pickle beer
Yeah.
used to be, oh my God, a pickle beer. There's actually a bunch of pickle beers out there now. Like you can find them if you look for them.
it's becoming more normal. Well, we had the goat brain beer,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we did.
Well,
and
maybe
we've
we
had
should talk before October then. Maybe we can do a little trade on
Well, and-
of beer to beer.
was it Snitz Creek that did the one where they smoked the malt with the? Did they do like a bologna smoked
They did
malt?
a
That's what I
Lebanon,
was-
Lebanon bologna.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking
beer.
of when we did the game last episode. I figured that was going to be the one.
Yeah, because it's the Amish guy that like the logo for the Lebanon bologna is on the label for the beer. I forget what it's called.
That's weird.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. So why not, right? Everybody's getting kind of crazy. Like,
Yeah.
who wouldn't drink 2 of a 4-ounce sample of something nuts? Like,
Yeah.
I used to also, for a very short amount of time, brew for Wincoop in Denver, and they make Rocky Mountain Oyster Stout.
Oh.
Yeah.
Whoa,
Mhm.
boy.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
We've
Full
talked about
on,
that one on the show.
bigger than baseballs. Rocky Mountain oysters. Get them all. I think they roast them in the kitchen, then chop them up and put them in the beer. I don't know. I got out of there before that was made. But I heard that it was made as an April Fool's joke the first time, and they serve it in a 2-pack.
Oh, yeah, and a 2-pack, of course.
Of course.
I love those guys. I'm like, totally makes sense.
That's awesome.
Wow. Are we playing There's Weird in My Beer in this episode by chance?
No.
Oh, that would have been
Unfortunately,
perfect.
Yeah, that would have been fitting. That would have been
That
very
would have,
fitting.
if we would have only known.
Right.
If we would have known.
I know.
So, Kim, you're also a board member on the Michigan Brewers Guild Board and the founder and co-chair of the Diversity and Equity and Inclusion Committee as well. So I want to hear a little bit about your work in those 2 areas.
Well, it's funny because I'll be writing my annual report later tonight, so probably good that we're talking about this.
We're prepping you.
So when I was in Colorado, I saw the benefit of a brewers guild and like really what a brewers guild does as far as advocating for breweries and responsible drinking, but not just like, the nerdy part of responsible drinking, but like really supporting like your local breweries and helping to market and support their well-being legislatively and socially in the sense of like festivals and things. So when you're in Colorado and you're a part of the guild, like everyone's super close. So when we moved here, I remember meeting someone and maybe I did know that they were on the guild board, but I was like, I'm going to be on the board someday. And he's just like, who are you? And so I ran for the board when there were 4 seats open and I got on, and I don't know that I would necessarily advocate for people running for board positions within their first 3 years of business, but I did. And somehow I have not been a total slacker. And we got a DEI committee formed for the first time in our guild history. So that's super exciting. My committee has at any point in time about 10 folks on it. So 10 different breweries, including Guardian. I'm like, it's so exciting. It's so fun to connect with, again, people that think like you and like the things that you like. And sure, they might look like you too. I'm like, if you're going to find it, it's going to be on that committee. That committee needs to exist to promote the voices of diversity within the guild, because otherwise it just looks like a bunch of white dudes with beards, which is not brewing anymore. But that's absolutely what people think of. Like when they meet me behind the bar, if they don't know who I am and they maybe don't notice like the safety glasses on my head or my boots, or they're like, oh, you make the beer? I'm like, well, let me know what you think. So it's great. I love being on the guild. I'm like, and especially on the board, I'm like, you can actually get things done. It's better than just wishing things were getting done. I'm trying to, put action in. So we've made the committee. We now have a track within our conference. Michigan runs their own winter conference, which is huge and awesome, like really impressive. I couldn't believe it. It's a big deal. So it's every January. So we now have a track, so a dedicated workshop every year to DE&I. I'm like, which is awesome and different. My committee is all about connecting with membership. So not just the owners or the person who attached their email address to the guild newsletter, like only those people get the newsletter, to really talking to the employees of the breweries and like the intricate levels of membership. And so we've done that so far it's been a virtual social. January will be our first social in person. So that's cool.
Exciting.
And then also through our survey. So we are not only just serving brewery owners or, the point member for the account, but we're writing a survey for employees of these breweries this year and trying to connect with them, show them that we care, because we do. But I feel like a lot of people say that, but then there's no action. So we're trying to put some action to it and also get to know a little bit more about the diverse makeup of the breweries in Michigan, because we all know anecdotally, or some people are afraid to ask. So because I'm a brewery owner that's a woman and a lesbian, my staff just tell me things. So if I have a trans staff member, I know right away. And I know exactly what pronouns they want to use or whatever. And like, if I have, it's very different than, having someone of color on your staff. Obviously, we all know that. I'm like, if you have eyes, you know that, you see it. But there's a lot of things that you don't see, whether it's pronoun use or just different genders or things like that, like things that people squirm about nowadays, but are becoming more and more normalized. They're always normal, but normalization is an important part for everyone to just feel more comfortable. And so having me be the loud voice at meetings and, rallying our motley crew of DE&I committee, love you guys, out there together to, just begging them to help me get stuff done. I'm like, they're great. I'm like, they do 99% of it. And I just try to, say the board needs this and I'll go get that information. But I mean, it's so driven by them. So we're doing great things. It's just in a time where it's hard to get together, and Michigan's a big state, Pennsylvania's a big state too. I can't even imagine like end to end. I've driven that a few times. It's long.
Yeah.
So getting all those folks together to hear all the different voices, thank goodness for online platforms, because we're able to do it monthly.
Right.
But it'll be fun to see everybody. I have folks in the committee I've never even met in person yet. So that'll be really fun.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So we've done a lot of things, but I feel like they're more social, emotional things, which I think is a good direction for beer at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Do you ever get to see Kate anymore?
She's our chief of operations. So right across from me is her desk. We actually share a slab of butcher block as our desk. We just like shove some. So we do see each other. Yes. I'm like, but she's also at home with our cat right now. He's an old boy and we can't stay out too late. So yeah, we see each other. We got a camper this past year so that we could take him with us because he can't stay at home alone.
Aww.
So we've been getting out more and more. We have the best managers. Otherwise, we would never be able to leave.
Wow.
So yeah, we actually take days off. It's a miracle.
Well, that's good.
Dan, you need to get a camper so you can take Moo with you.
I was just thinking of that. Yeah.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
So she can get her meds on time, and
Yep.
you can
And she can
spend
see
more
the
time
world.
away from Philly.
She can see the world. And yeah, I want to spend more time away from Philly.
Speaking of fun things, like
Yes.
being outside of Philly,
Yes.
I feel like
Things.
this would be a good time to play a game.
Are we gonna play a game?
Is that? I don't know how fun and outside of Philly transitions to this, but I'll take it. I'll definitely take it.
Sure, why not? Let's play a little game. All right.
Oh, yep.
Gonna record
Thank
video.
you. At least somebody appreciated my transition. Jeez. I'm gonna try to not get my
Recording in progress.
I'm gonna try to not get the humidifier in the screen.
All right.
You know, like people are probably like,
Humidifier.
she's got her humidifier in the corner.
All
We
right.
got a dehumidifier in the basement and a humidifier in the bedroom.
That kind of seems.
Aren't they just canceling each
Gonna
other?
say, it's out of a wash. at
But
that
man,
point.
they're
the living
two-
room is perfect.
Oh,
So,
two different rooms.
exactly. Don't need either on the main floor. Up here,
my
it's
God.
dry AF, and in the basement, it's wet AF.
Okay. All right. All right.
I mean, hashtag homeowner problems. I don't know.
I mean, we could use a dehumidifier in the basement. Let's be honest.
Yeah, but we don't. Well, I was
That's-
gonna say we don't use it for anything but laundry, but there is stuff down there,
And
that's
it's all
like in
ruined. It's
storage.
all ruined. Oh, I
Hey,
gotta,
we
I
have
gotta
a
clear.
we have a tiki bar in the basement. That
You
was our
do.
COVID project.
You do.
We need to take care of the
It's
tiki
impressive.
Nice.
It needs to be properly hydrated.
Yeah. Otherwise, your little
No.
like reeds fall off your hut, right?
Yeah. Or they curl
Dehydrated.
up.
Does it have that?
Dehydrated.
Oh, yeah, they curl.
bar. Yes. We need to protect our tiki god, whose name is Mark.
Mark.
Dan actually named him.
Mark.
Did I?
You did.
He must
Oh,
have been
I don't
drinking when
remember
that happened.
We got our tiki god, and we're like, he needs a name, and you're like, Mark, and we're like, okay, that's his name.
That sounds like me.
All hail
That
Mark.
definitely sounds like me.
Mark. It sounds very traditional. That's nice.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
every time one of us goes in the basement, we say, hi, Mark, and he says, unga bunga.
As long as he doesn't move around, you're good to go.
We even got him a little ceramic Christmas tree. He has it next to him right now. We take this very seriously.
It sounds like it.
That's good. You don't want to make him mad. I'm like,
No.
I don't know if you've seen all those shows. I'm like, Mark starts moving around and this
Right?
all hell breaks loose.
We need good tiki
Yes.
juju. Is that
I
what
was
they
just
call
gonna
it?
say juju. Yeah,
Juju.
that works.
Vibes.
We'll take it.
There you go.
Vibes. Yeah.
Vibing. So I think from now on, every episode, we should take like a 5-minute break to get a tiki update.
Okay.
See what's going on with Mark
Yeah.
and the tiki bar.
Hey, Mark. Yeah.
Yeah. Checking in with Mark the tiki god.
I don't know. We should record in the basement next time. But
there you
you guys always say the internet's not as strong down there because the modem's up here.
Yeah.
I hear it's really damp down there. I don't know.
Yeah. I heard it's wet AF, actually.
Yeah.
That's right.
Those are the words that I was told.
Yes.
Specifically.
Sorry.
Sorry. We
There's
just
like-
need to get through these
there's
next
like
couple days.
80% humidity, and then it's just wet AF after that.
That's right.
Are we ready
I was
to play
going
a
to say
game?
your hose. That's perfect.
All
It'd be
right.
a good name for a beer, Wet AF.
Somebody probably already did it.
No, it's not.
No, it's really not.
No, no, because then committees like mine have to be like, so why did you decide to name
Oh,
your beer?
well, I didn't even
Yeah.
think of it in that.
Frightening.
I didn't think of it in that way.
That's great.
Moving swiftly on. All right, let's play a game. Let's do it. Cheers, Internet, and welcome to Happy Fun Time Games, the podcast trivia segment that sees a red barn and wants to paint it brown. Today, we are playing the cousin of libation or fabrication, all about crazy names of beers and bands.
Oh,
In today's
Man.
edition of Band or Beer, I will give you the name of something, and you just have to tell me if that's the name of a band or the name of a beer. Pretty simple. And we're going to begin, as we almost always do, to my left with Dan. Our first name of the game is Ginger Joe. Is that a beer or is that a band?
Oh man. I want to say band. That was the first thing that popped into my head.
Dan saying band. Steph?
well, if it would be a beer, I would assume it would be a red ale that has coffee in it.
That's where I went with it. Yeah.
Okay, I was trying to read Wayne, and I'm getting nothing. You said I'll say beer because Dan said band.
Dan said band. Steph is saying beer. And finally, Ken?
I was gonna say band, but I want Ginger Joe to be a beer.
Okay, so saying beer.
I like it. I'm on the beer train.
All right, well, I have good and bad news. The good news is beer is correct. So Steph and Kim are correct. The bad news is it's not actually a beer as such. It's an alcoholic ginger beer from across the pond, actually.
Oh.
The illustrious House of Stone, ancestral seat of the Stones of London, are the proud originators and present purveyors of Ginger Joe and world-famed Stone's ginger wine. The legend of Ginger Joe is inspired by Ginger Joseph Stone, mustachioed London greengrocer and illustrious founder of the noble House of Stone. Legend says Joe was fanatical about the tantalizing taste of the ginger root, and that his first dip in the ginge, circa 1740, produced a tipple that literally singed the tips of his tash, an image now immortalized on every bottle of the refreshingly feisty alcoholic ginger beer.
So it was a trick question.
Wow.
But it was more of a beer than a band. I think any reasonable person
Trick
would
question.
make that conclusion.
We all-
Beverage
I get a
or
point.
band?
I get a point. It was a
Beverage
trick
or
question.
band.
I get a point too.
I'm in charge here. I was gonna say this is not a democracy, but I feel like that's not something I should. I feel like it's a touchy subject. So we're not going to continue that line. That was a beer. Steph and Kim were correct. We're moving on to name number 2, and Steph is going to guess first on this one. This one is called Bright Ass Tank Tops. Is that a band or a beer?
Band.
Saying that is a band. Kim?
I have a clarifying question.
Sure.
Is ass with S's or dollar signs?
It is with S's.
Band.
Okay. Saying that is a band, and finally Dan.
Band.
Everybody saying band. Everybody's incorrect.
Damn it!
It is, in fact, a beer. Yes.
I was gonna say beer, but I wasn't sure, and I didn't want to be down 2-zip.
It is a rum barrel.
TTP approve that beer?
Apparently they did. It's a rum barrel aged key lime goza, which sounds interesting and weird.
I guarantee you they didn't package this.
From Unknown Brewing, it probably wasn't packaged.
Nope.
I don't actually know the answer to that. But unknown marketing manager Scotty Kent said this. This one is pretty simple. It's the kind of beer you drink when you're at the beach in a bright-ass tank top.
Oh, this is never. I always try this and it never
We can't
works.
see it on the screen. Is that
There.
the can?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I can't believe that got approved.
But if they only sold it on premise, they could have just slapped those labels.
Oh
on
yeah,
it,
just slap it on.
and nobody would.
Yeah, but you still got. Don't you still have to get it
I mean,
approved?
technically.
You do.
Technically.
That's
don't
why
know.
I'm like, it's got to be dollar signs.
it is not. It is not. It should have been. But yes, that was a beer from Unknown Brewing. We are on to number 3, and that means, Kim, you are up to guess first. This one is called Let's Get Out of This Terrible Sandwich Shop.
That's fabulous.
It's a brilliant name either way.
It is. I'm going to go with beer because I've never known a band to have that long of a name.
Okay. All right. Going with beer. Dan.
I hope it's a band. I really do.
All right. Dan is hoping it's a band. We have a band. We have a beer. Steph, what do you think?
I think it's a beer.
Oh, 2 beers. Incorrect. It is, in fact, a band.
I'm
And
making a comeback!
Dan gets his first point of the game. Yes, it was initially the solo project of Second City's Tony Mendoza,
Oh.
but eventually expanded to include other Chicago-based improv veterans. The self-dubbed goof pop group started formulating their brand of indie pop in the early 2000s. Their self-titled debut EP was released in January 2006. The band was picked up by Roydale Records soon after, and their debut album called Listening was released on the label that following year.
Do you know who else was
Out
in
of Portland?
Out of
Probably
Portland.
out of Portland.
Probably out of Portland.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
We could look it up,
We could.
but we're not going to. We're coming back
It's a
around,
nerd thing I'll do later.
circling back to the beginning. Beer number 4 or band number 4.
Oh.
Oh.
Dan guesses first on this one. This one is called The Birds Are Spies. They Report to the Trees.
Is this a Stickman beer?
Right? It's the Stickman or Tired Hands. I'm going to go beer.
Dan is going beer. Steph, what do you think?
I'm gonna say beer.
Also saying beer. Okay. And Kim, agree, disagree?
I'll just pick band. Somebody's got
Uh-oh.
to pick band.
Uh-oh.
All right, bucking the trend. Good strategy because it is a band.
Oh, you tricked us. Oh, you
Uh-huh,
jerk.
uh-huh. It is a band from Oslo,
Nice. That's a
Norway.
long-
Oh, that checks out.
It's a long name. It's an emo group.
Also
They
checks out.
no longer exist, but they did exist from 2004 to 2007, and they may have released a demo and an album, or they may have released 4 albums. I'm not really sure, and the internet isn't either. But the trees may have found out that they knew. So it was a band, but it was never a band. We have come to our penultimate question of the game, and Steph is on deck to guess first on this one. Our second to last name is Soft Christmas, a.k.a. Pretty Please with a Cherry on top.
Beer.
Steph is saying that is a beer. Kim
Beer.
saying it's a beer. Another long name, but, you know, had a long name band on the last one. So.
I'm going to go beer also because I don't think there would be another band with that long of a name.
Everybody saying beer. Everybody is correct this time. This one is, in fact, a beer. It's a big old 10.9% Imperial Stout from Evil Twin. It's the Christmas version of Soft Dookie, and it's brewed with vanilla and sour cherries. They have this to say about the beer. If Christmas is a tough one for you, Soft Christmas will definitely sweeten dark times of endless caroling, abundance of food, and difficult domestic obligations. That one was a beer. We've come to the final question of the game. So this is the point where I'm going to add up the scores, see where everybody's standing, see who guesses first, second, and third on this one. Dan has 2 points. Steph has 2 points. Kim in the lead with 3 points. So that means we're going to make Kim guess first, because she's in the lead. That way everybody else has the advantage of hearing her answer. So, last name of the game. Is it a band? Is it a beer? This one is called Are These My Pants?
I want it to be a beer.
Right, saying beer for that one. Dan, what do you think?
If I want to have a chance, band.
All right, saying Dan to try and at least tie the game. And finally, Steph.
Oh. Let's see. Well, I was going to say beer, so I'll just say beer.
Okay, Steph saying beer, completely ruining the German Sparkle Party because it was a band. And Dan was correct. Yes.
I was going for beating Dan. That was my goal.
Okay, fair.
It's usually a good goal.
Didn't work out this time. Are These My Pants is an experimental jazz / pop / mainstream / progressive / metal / rock / alternative / Apple core band from Montreal with a Facebook page that has 64 followers and a total of 2 posts. One from 2010 that reads, "We Are Alive," and one from 2011 that reads, "Since we are dead, do not expect any music to come your way unless we are making music." Right?
What?
Yeah, I don't know. So maybe they never really did exist, but it's a pretty cool name.
But they were alive at one point.
They were alive, and then they weren't alive, and then they were again. So we're adding up the scores.
I can't
See
believe that's not a beer, though.
who our big winners are.
What was it called? Are These My Pants? Or Where Are My Pants?
Are These My Pants?
Are These My Pants?
I bet if it's Where Are My Pants, that would be a beer.
That's probably a beer.
True. I mean, you don't have to wait while I fact check.
I'm just curious to see if anything comes up.
Nope,
Here
nothing
we go.
came up.
Where
I'm
are
really
my
surprised.
pants? Where are my pants? By Foul Mouth Brewing.
Oh, there you go. Where are my pants? Close, but legally distinct.
That's exactly right. Oh, there's also Dude, Where Are My Pants?
Dude, where are
Of course.
Of course, of course. So we have 2 joint winners in today's game, Dan and Kim. Woo! Each with 3 points. Steph could have had a German Sparkle Party, could have had a 3-way tie, but got the last one wrong. Steph only has 2 points.
Can't blame me for trying.
Thank you, everyone, for playing. You get nothing for winning. But this is the part of the podcast where we give a shout out to all our most generous patrons on Patreon who keep the lights on only for 10 minutes at a time here at Beer Busters headquarters. We would like to thank the following individuals for their support. Jen McDonald,
It better be a puppet.
PA Brew Review,
Gonna go back in time.
Eric Dixon,
I'm a banana.
Dana,
I'm a rock solid 5, maybe 6.
James Lamberg,
Oops, I just sharded.
Chris Mahoney,
It's Brittany, bitch.
Sean Sullivan, Brian Mills,
I like German sparkle party, sparkle party, sparkle party.
almost had one, Jill Chivers,
Them's my peeps.
the one and only That's No Baloney, Joe Mansell,
Zoom slap, baby, zoom slap.
Topher Simmons. And finally, Ben Mingle.
Oh.
If you want to find out how you can get your name on this esteemed list and a bunch of other behind-the-scenes perks, you can go to patreon.com/beerbusters to learn more. But now let's pay our tab.
Say, Yvonne, remember when I said I'd have to send away to NASA to calculate your bar tab?
Oh, yeah. We all had a good laugh, Mo.
The results came back today. You owe me $70 billion.
Hey, Wayne.
Hey, Dan.
What is your favorite part of your body?
My teeth?
Not what I thought you were going to say, but I agree. Maybe not my teeth, my whole mouth.
Well, I only said that because I know what we're doing.
Oh, you're smart.
I thought that's what you wanted me to say.
You could have said whatever, and I would have rolled with it.
Hey, Dan, what's Quip?
Quip. I'll tell you about a quick Quip. Quip is a modern oral care brand that designs beautifully simple electronic toothbrushes. You know those toothbrushes that Dad always gets us for Christmas?
Yes.
We're going to need to throw those out.
Okay.
Because we should get Quip. We're not going to share it. We're going to get our own because that'd be weird.
All right.
They're going to deliver affordable brush heads every 3 months on a dentist-recommended schedule. That way, we don't forget to throw those out and also forget to buy a new toothbrush months after we should have thrown those out.
Are you telling me that dentists say you should change your toothbrush every 3 months?
Apparently.
This is news to me.
And yet, most people's dental insurance only covers 2 screenings a year, so you go every 6 months. So this will put you at better than what your insurance is going to do to take care of your mouth.
Make brushing great again.
Oh, God. They even have some smart accessories. Like they have a wall mat, so that way you don't have to fight to find counter space for it in a tiny bathroom like we have. You just have this really cool press wall mount that just goes wherever, any glossy surface. That way, if you want to take it with you into the shower, you want to put it off to the right side of the mirror, the left side of the mirror, you even want to take it downstairs to the kitchen for some stupid reason, you can take that mount with you. And, you know one of my biggest problems with brushing teeth? I use too much toothpaste. I think that's why we run out of toothpaste pretty often.
Ah, okay.
It's my fault. But if we went with Quip, they have toothpaste tubes that provide a guide on how much to use, so you don't overdo it, you don't underdo it, you're not cheating yourself or wasting money.
A pea-sized dollop.
It's got to be a pea-sized dollop.
Which I knew before I found out about Quip.
I think I did too, but I don't eat peas, so I don't know how big a pea is.
Fair enough.
But for the listeners of Beer Busters, you can head over to tryquip.com/beerbusters, and you are going to get yourself a free $10 refill while you're also doing the best thing you can do to take care of your mouth. That is tryquip.com/beerbusters. $10 refill for free.
Yay, teeth.
So, Kim, you guys also do a philanthropy program as well.
Yes. Yes, we do.
Can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
It's varied every year. This past year and a little bit of 2020 was focused on doing the Black is Beautiful project. And so we were able to donate like $7,000 to the Lakeshore Ethnic Diversity Alliance, which is a lot for a big brewery for us. So we were pretty excited. We're looking forward to doing the Brave Noise beer this next year. So if you don't know about that, go check it out online.
Yes.
But it's a pale ale and it'll benefit violence not against women. So we're still trying to figure out who it's going to benefit in our area and kind of, you know, where needs are. Mm-hmm. So we take a long time to figure out where we would like to kind of do these projects and like who we think has needs. And if they're telling us that they have needs, kind of go through those donations as well. So we've donated to roller derby teams and diversity days and all sorts of things. We try to kind of steer clear of schools and golf outings and things like that and try to do things that are a little bit more us. So we haven't done a ton, but we have great plans for this next year. So we bought some cookie cutters and we have some folks that love to bake in our kitchen. And so we're going to make some rainbow cookies. And each month, the sale of those cookies is going to go to an organization chosen by a different person or maybe a pair of people. So we told our chef she could choose first. So something tells me that the Humane Society is probably going to get some donations coming soon because she's a big dog lover. She's got a big old black German Shepherd named Bowie at home.
Aww.
So we figured that'd be fun. Even if it's like $50, that's helpful. That's a little bit of food. So we're trying to think about a different way that we can affect change in our community, even on a small level.
Yeah. What I love about the Black is Beautiful project and now the Brave Noise project, I love that there's something tied to it. Like it's not just make this beer and bring awareness, which awareness is huge. That's so important, but it's also make this beer and be a pioneer, help us make change, whether with Black is Beautiful to do something to increase diversity or to give money towards certain organizations, or with the Brave Noise. I love the whole code of conduct, making that a normal conversation within the beer world of creating a code of conduct, posting a code of conduct. It's not just the beer and selling the beer, but also making change in the community. And I think that that's really important. And I hope these sorts of projects continue to pop up and have the support and the reach that these two particular ones have had. We've had on two people from the Pittsburgh area that are part of the Pittsburgh Diversity Council. Diversity. I'm getting the name of the committee wrong. Anyway, they have a project out there they're doing called She Knows Beer. And it's brewed by a different group of women from a brewery in and around Pittsburgh. And what I love about that project is it doesn't even have to be a particular style, where the Black is Beautiful beer was the Imperial Stout or some sort of take on that beer, and Brave Noise is the Pale Ale or some sort of take on that. I love that it's really about the group of women. They just come together and decide this is the beer that we want to present. And, each label is even really unique, but there's still the message tied behind it. So I love these projects. And we have many breweries in our area too that have like a monthly tap where this tap goes to this charity. It seems so simple, but it's so powerful. And many times I will order the beer just because I know $1 or $2 of it is going towards the organization, but it also introduces me to organizations that I didn't even know existed and causes that I didn't realize were out there. So that's really cool. And I do support, we all love animals. That's a great choice for the start of this project.
We think so.
And
too.
I will say making rainbow cookies is very difficult because we made rainbow cookies, and the video on Tasty that was the website, right? Makes it look so easy. You divide the dough and use the food coloring, and you roll it up
and it's done.
Right. Cut them, and it's not.
I think they're just going to be iced in a rainbow. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe they'll make the cookies rainbow themselves, but I think we might stick to just icing them in a rainbow.
That's I would highly recommend taking that route.
That's the much easier way to do it.
No.
Probably better.
Rainbow tie-dye Play-Doh.
Yeah,
what?
It does. And I learned the hard way that you should use gloves.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Anytime you're dealing with food color.
We did the red first, and I was kneading it, and I was like, oh crap.
Weren't you looking for your jalapeno chopping gloves before Kim even joined the call when it was just us?
Yeah, I also have I'm using overtone right now to try to cover my gray hair, so I need to wear gloves when I condition my hair in the shower. There's gloves all over this house.
Gloves for everything.
I got gloves back here for cat medicine.
Yeah, see? But anyway, this is how we get at this point in the show.
Yeah,
Tangent,
pretty much.
So I love the idea of people choosing. Is it going to be, as of right now, just employees of the brewery that will choose? That's really cool.
Yeah.
And
we're going to start with employees. As well. We'll see where it goes from there. I'm like, just something different. I'm like, we need to try something different, and we want to get people excited about giving in times of the year where giving is so low, because we're people who are able to buy gifts and get things are kind of coming off of that season. But I think people really need in the winter here.
Mm-hmm. And it's something that is more immediate. It's something that is simple and can be immediate and can be hyper local as well. Mm-hmm. So it's a feel good kind of thing.
It is.
Well, if people want to learn more, where should they find you? Where do they go to find more about Guardian?
Well, so we have a website. It's guardianbrewingco.com. And you will also find us on Facebook and Instagram, and really poorly on Twitter.
At least you have the Twitter. There are a lot of breweries out this way that don't have that anymore.
Yes.
Well, that's awesome. And of course, while you're out there, looking at Guardian, remember to find Beer Busters online. You know the drill. At Beer Busters, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. We're Beer Busters Podcast. There's beerbusterspodcast.com/shop. YouTube, we're Beer Busters Podcast. There's patreon.com/beerbusters as well.
And there's gloves for all of them.
Well, you got to have the winter gloves that have the thing that you can touch your
Oh,
phone while
yes,
you're wearing your gloves.
yes, yeah. I got a pair of those.
It was 20 degrees when I drove to work this morning.
Yeah, it was like
cold
20,
today.
25 when I left for work this morning. So yeah.
So yeah, find us on the internet and make sure to wear your gloves.
Wear the gloves. Wear the gloves for sure.
I'm never going to hear the end of this ever.
Probably not, but at least you recognize that, and that's what matters. Well, Kim, thanks for joining us. This was great.
Thank you for having me. It was really nice to meet you all.
Likewise,
Dude, thanks.
likewise.
That was fun.
And I hope we can get some people as they get through Michigan to get to Saugatuck and to get to Guardian, and I hope someday to find myself up there, especially it's a beach town.
Yeah. And it just sounds like an amazing town.
Yeah.
Everything the way you talked about it.
Yeah, all the
sounds
cool
like a really
local
cool place.
businesses and locally sourced everything. That's great. That's awesome. I really feel like we need more of that.
I totally want to make a trip out. It's just from the research that I've done before talking with you and now after talking with you, like you should also be on the tourism board for your town because honestly, like the way you just speak with pride about the town and the other people that own businesses there, like it sounds like a really awesome place. I want to go on one of those donut boat things.
Yeah.
I hate
Oh, yeah, I
water,
do too.
Awesome.
So
Well,
when
let me know
I
if
plan
you
my
ever
trip,
make it.
when I plan my trip in one of the warmer months, I'll shoot you an email, let you know I'm coming.
We'll get a donut boat.
Perfect. Yes.
Steph, I'm inviting myself along on that trip, just so we're clear.
Okay, but you're getting a separate room.
Well, obviously.
And a separate donut boat.
Well,
As your own donut boat.
all right, fine. I can do my own donut, but that's fine. That's fine. Oh, man.
Bander beer, get your own donut boat.
Yeah, exactly. Man. Well, unfortunately, this does bring us to the end of another episode of Beer Busters, and it was an awesome time. I'm so glad that we got to meet you, Kim. I'm so glad we got to hear everything about Guardian, and I hope to actually invite myself along to Steph's trip and visit there in person someday.
Sounds great.
Awesome. Well, you out there listening to this, thank you. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for following along. And if I could be so bold as to ask you to give us a rating and review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. But beyond that, go a step further. Do it for all the podcasts you listen to. Well, I'm Dan Baker, joined by my co-host, Dan Brewologist.
Steph Hefner.
And, of course, the Demented and Fermented,
Wayne Baker.
Remember, no squids were harmed in the making of this episode. And we'll see you next time.
In the basement, it's wet AF.
Wet